Oh my goodness. Uja, Uben never. My goodness gracious. Let's see, how do we do this? This is a little better. Good rising, great awakenings. D30270. All right. Let's see if I can find it. Had several obstacles today, of course, trying to work with YouTube. I have to give up my idea of having subscriptions, and just gonna something else is gonna develop. Good rising. Your name is Teresa. Lonely girl. Oh, you're not lonely anymore. We can be lonely together. Uh-oh, let me change my I have to make it so it's backwards. Yeah, it was really challenging. I want to make these live streams available, and the classes I want to teach, I wanted to teach them as a subscription. So there's some sort of compensation on both TikTok and YouTube. But that's not going to work. My website is down, so as soon as it's back up, we're just going to work it through there. So today we're going to have the discussion for TaMeriKan Tuesdays, and then I'm going to move everything over to the yoga mat, and we will stick with YouTube. Yeah, I don't have enough views to go subscription, so I'm going to have to go back to donations, and that I don't know how that's going to go. I'm going to trust it's going to be just fine. So today we're going to have our discussion on TaMeriKan Tuesdays, which is turning out to be a much despised topic by some people in the human community. What is TaMeriKan? Well, TaMeri is the Kemetic term or the Medunetic term for North, Central, and South America. I recently went through a big change in my identity. I stopped referring to myself as Black, and I stopped referring to myself as Black Indian, Black Native American, Black Native American Indian, Black Indian. I've stopped using those terms because they're racist. And even though I was very attached to the meaning of blackness from ancient Kemet, because Kemet means land of the black night sky, the black soil, the black fertile soil. I mean, all these wonderful positive things. However, when dealing with politics or bureaucracy or paperwork or just anything outside of the spiritual context, Black is like the worst thing you can identify with. So there's a movement. I see there's a young man selling t-shirts, cancel racism, don't claim Black, don't call me Black, don't call them white. I don't have my chart here. I usually have it in the background of the spiral dance medicine wheel. The Lakota and the Hopi have designated the directions, the four aspects of life, the four seasons, the four elements, and the four directions, and the indigenous people of the four directions with this chart I'm going to run down and get it. Hold on. I just remembered I can put it on my screen share. So I'll do that. I'll do the screen share. And that will be easier. I hope I can find it quickly. Should be in favorites. There it is. There we go. Okay, there we go. And then I can do that here. call it up first. Okay. No, that's not going to do it. Try medicine wheel. Here we go. There we go. I guess that one will work. Okay. Sorry, I didn't have this pulled up ahead of time. Okay. Window. Oh, it didn't open it. It's so fun. It's so funny how these things just have their own agenda. Can't open. There we go. Okay. So it's a window. It's open. There we go. Okay. There we go. Spiral dance medicine wheel. Okay. So, so they divided it into four. The North is the people of the North, representing what you would call white people or Caucasian, but it's not a racial chart. It's just symbolism. And to the South, you have the people of the South, which is designated Black people. The people to the East, yellow, people from Asia. People to the red, representing West or TaMeriKan. And then also, it represents the four seasons: spring, summer, fall, winter. And at the top of the chart is winter. Top of the chart. I don't know how to point to it. Winter. And then we have the four seasons and the four mid-seasons. So we just had the middle of fall, which is Dia de los Muertos. And now we have winter solstice. And next we'll have the middle of winter, which is Candlemas, or the raising of the tree. It also refers to the four aspects of being: fire, air, water, earth. North is fire. East is air. South is water. West is earth. The four aspects of being: mind, body, soul, spirit. Four elements. Okay, yeah. So those charts represent quite a bit. And so the premise is, or the idea is, or the belief is, or the knowledge is that indigenous people of all four directions, even the people of the North, had people that were living their own lives before the Christian empire arose and wiped out all the practitioners that still practice the old ways. Even in Europe, they started in Europe and moved around. They did the same thing everywhere. So it's not just a racist thing where it's just white people are terrible. It's people that are infected with Western imperialism and Caucasity. So that was fine, right? And then over time, I started to realize that the Black people, what we call as Black people or melanated people, which I now refer to as Aboriginal people, were on every continent first. There's facts, there's information, there's theories, everything, right? So why is it that we acknowledge that there was Aboriginal people, Black people in Europe first, Asia first, of course in Africa, they're still there. But why is it so hard to accept that for TaMeriKan? So that is where I am right now. I've been studying Kemet for like 12 years, Kemetic spirituality, Kemetic science, and now I'm embracing TaMeriKan science from TaMeri. There's even facts, evidence, books, proof, etc., receipts stating that the Kemetic civilization that we all love so much over in Kemet, thank you, there's my little sign, started here. It was here first, and then there was a catastrophe, a civil war, whatever, and then people left TaMeriKan and sailed to Egypt, Kemet in Africa, and that is set up as a memorial. So all the wisdom and science that is just so so much a part of me now, that was attributed to Kemet, is also a big factor here in TaMeriKan. And if you look at the Olmec traditions, the Toltec traditions, if the writing it's right, it doesn't even need to be written. It's in people's faces, it's in their heart, it's in their culture. Good rising, Constance. And so after all the traveling that I've done to Kemet, I've been to Central and South America. I was a student of Galactic Astronomy, studying the ancient galactic cultures and the pyramid cultures and Sirius cultures. I was thinking of moving to Mexico. I still think about moving to Mexico, but I'm going to focus on TaMeriKan, especially Turtle Island, which is North America. And I'd like to visit the mounds and just, see the vibrations I get from there. I'd like to go and do ceremonies there, take my tuning forks, my music instruments, make offerings. So that's kind of where I am with it right now. I'm planning a trip to Cahokia, Illinois, and I'm going to go from there. So that's kind of an introduction to TaMeriKan Tuesdays. Rather than focusing on what separates us, like I see on other channels with this topic, saying that this culture is the best or this culture is first, or this and that. I don't really want to get into things that separate us and divide us. My guides or intuitions says my focus is on uniting Eastern and Western Kemet, so people can see that it's one culture, and then we can go from there, because they all sprang from these two, in my opinion. So my platform is not, I'm Cherokee, I'm this, I'm Lakota, I'm this, because I am Cherokee and I am Lakota, among other things. I also have famous French slave plantation owner in New Orleans. Henri Jean Baptiste is my great-great-grandfather. When I first came into this knowledge, I had so much hatred towards white people. I developed a sty on my eye. It went here, 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 and then back over here. It took 2 years for me to realize that not all of my European ancestors were slave owners. Some of them were probably just living their best lives somewhere in France. And I had to embrace that aspect of my being instead of hating, because I was hating myself and hating my ancestors, which isn't going to get you very far in life. So I have French and German, and I have photographs. I have a photograph of one of my ancestors that we believe to be from Nigeria, but we're not sure. My daughter had her DNA testing. It said Nigerian, so it's probably Nigerian. But my bloodline is Cherokee and Lakota, or Chalagi and Saponi. And so, like I was trying to say, my platform is not about what separates us, but about the cosmology, the creation myths, the pyramids, the cultures that are tuned to the galaxy, to the Milky Way. I used to follow the moon a lot, but I'm not convinced it's real, or I believe it's just a satellite. I saw this really interesting movie last week called Moonfall. And it was all about that, how the moon is it's a satellite that's used to maintain the existence of our celestial ancestors that are trapped. Anyway, I follow the Milky Way, the sun. I follow the 13-month sidereal calendar. I follow the spiral dance medicine wheel, the seasons, because when we get to the solstices and the mid seasons, that's when the axis of our solar plane aligns with the galactic plane. So usually we just read from some of my favorite books, and we have had some really interesting discussions. If anyone wants to join the panel or whatever, or the conversation, just let me know, and I'll bring you in on TikTok. I haven't learned how to do that on YouTube yet. And then after this discussion, I've taken so much time with the introduction. After the discussion, we'll switch over to the yoga sessions. And for now, I'm trusting that people will make contributions to Cosmology Temple, Divine Light Healing and Sweet Sounds, for such an amazing yoga experience. All right, so Um, usually start. Oh, I wanted to say that last time we were together, I did some reading from this book, Black Seminoles. Let's see, I'll stop sharing now. Black Seminoles, Indians of Texas. And I was able to speak with the author, Doug Savad, yesterday on the phone. I couldn't believe when he told me that he was 82. I just like, what? How can he be 82? I said, well, you're 63. I said, yeah, I guess so. But he's really the first person that made it clear to me about the significance of my Cherokee and Lakota heritage. And I just always admired him. He has a couple of documentaries out if you get a chance, if you're interested in that type of information. It's interesting because when his last name is Savad, and he had to choose that name because his last name is Davis, and there are these brothers called the Davis brothers that have a pretty bad reputation. So he changed his name. Okay, so let's just take another reading from his wonderful book. And remember, I've stopped using terms like Black or Indian because we're not anywhere near India. Although someone said this is the first India. I don't know. I think this is the first Kemet, which is India. So it's just Meri, which means beloved land. The beginnings, 1497, 1760. When Amerigo Vespucci, like Columbus, and people think that's where this continent got its name from, Amerigo Vespucci, but there's evidence that it was called Chi Amaru and Amaruka, and we know it as Meri, so that's where the name is coming from in our tradition. Oh, another thing I wanted to say, a young lady that I know from when I lived in Round Valley in Cabrillo, California, from the Round Valley Indian Reservation, she said she's shocked to hear me talk about Meri and that I'm a descendant of the Aboriginal Americans, the original people, not Native Americans, not even necessarily indigenous people, because there's evidence that says that the people that we consider to be Native Americans, some of their ancestors, I won't say all of their ancestors, but some of their ancestors were sent over here to replace us. And then we speak to, like they did with the immigrants here today. And then when you listen to Native Americans or indigenous people of Turtle Island talking about their ancestors, they say that they walked very far to get to where they are now, that they weren't the original inhabitants of where they are now. Some came, I used to think the whole Bering Strait thing wasn't true, because I feel that some of us came from the South, or we were already here. So it's all of it. Some of us were already here. Some of us came from the South. Some came across. I know the Ojibwe say that they walked for like 100 years over time. Their tribe moved, and it's my belief that we were always moving. None of us were just in one place for our whole lives. We're always moving. But anyway, some Native Americans are angry that we're having this, that this is our belief system now. This is what we feel, believe to be true. And they're saying that we're erasing them. It's not that we're erasing them. If they're indigenous people or descendants of Aboriginal people, then aren't we just family? That we're just reclaiming what was taken from us. We're not trying to take anything away from anyone. But anyway, when Amerigo Vespucci, like Columbus, an Italian navigator sailing under the Spanish flag, left Spain in 1497 and arrived in present-day South Carolina, he found the Native American whom he hoped to enslave. So when you read other sources, they refer to us as copper-colored or black. whom he hoped to enslave. He took many Indians, quote unquote Indians, back to Spain, but red men proved to be a poor choice, for they chose to die rather than work as slaves. Indian mothers even killed their babies rather than have them grow up in bondage. Lucas Vasquez de Ayllón followed the ocean route of Amerigo Vespucci in the summer of 1526 and landed at the mouth of the Pee River in present-day South Carolina with 500 Spaniards and 100 African slaves brought out of Haiti. The settlement was short-lived, for malaria took the lives of half the Spaniards, including de Ayllón himself. Indian raids and ultimately a slave revolt forced the remaining colonists to flee America's east coast and return to Haiti, leaving their black slaves to become the first permanent settlers from the Eastern Hemisphere within the confines of present-day United States. African Maroons remained and prospered in the new land, friendly to some Indian tribes and formidable foes to others. Since no African women were brought during early African slaving, these blacks intermarried with Indians and the Afro-Indian evolved in North America. Yes, so when I spoke to him yesterday, he agreed that, because this book was written in, when was this book written? The 60s or the 70s. Okay, first edition, 84. Okay, but I know he was working on it before then. There wasn't much talk about the fact that we were already here. We were mostly given the rhetoric that the only reason we're here is because of slavery and the Trail of Tears. And that's no longer considered to be the truth. That I'm not saying that this didn't happen, that no slaves came over and no slaves mixed with Native Americans. I'm just saying that some of our people were already here. Also during the early 16th century, English seamen took up permanent residency in West Africa in the Senegambia and Gold Coast regions, major trade ports. As langados, the middlemen of trade, and tango maos, henchmen and protectors, these Englishmen adopted tribal lifestyles, submitted to the king, chieftain, and intermarried with black women. Tribal laws had special provisions for these Anglos. For example, they were not allowed to converse with nor even look upon a married woman under pain of death. These marriages produced mulatto children from whom the language Creole, a combination of nautical English and various African tongues, evolved. It became the language of trade. These brown-skinned merchants eventually became the middlemen when their Anglo fathers, who became quite wealthy, returned to England. Creole became the language of the mulatto elite. The Grametes, bush Africans living amongst the wealthy Gambisas, black professional slave hunters, and anyone who traded their wares along the west coast of Africa spoke the language fluently. Word of English interest in African slavery reached the langados, and the mulattoes journeyed into the African bush, buying criminals and degenerates from nearby villages. Village nuisances could not meet the demand for slaves in the Anglo-American colonies, so the middlemen ordered raids on unsuspecting tribes. Mulattoes guarded the prisons where captured slaves were held for as long as a year before being shipped west. Creole became a common language amongst the captive slaves of the various tribes. Well, that's not saying much for mixed people, is it? It's not saying much for us. But not all of us were that way. In 1630, King Charles I of England awarded land grants to Sir Robert Heath for the territory between the 31st and 36th degree parallels, later to be named Carolina, Latin for Charles, in his honor. African Maroons and Indian warriors raided the small colony, slaves revolted, and Sir Heath's lack of intestinal fortitude caused the colony's demise. 30 years later, King Charles II reissued the same land grant to 8 lord proprietors. Agriculturally, Carolina prospered from the production of rice and indigo. Soon the colonists expanded southward onto Oconee Creek country, closing fast on Spanish Florida. To combat English encroachment from the north, Spain in 1692 made notice in Virginia and the Carolinas that any black slave reaching Spanish territory would find freedom. In turn, the Spanish freed their enslaved Africans and settled them 30 miles west of St. Augustine at Umbasa village. Slave revolts and escapes increased in the Carolinas with the Spanish announcement. African villages multiplied in Spanish Florida. 50 years later, Ahaya, the cowkeeper, a Lower Creek chief, broke away from the Creek Confederacy and relocated his tribe of red and black Indians at Alachua in northern Florida, the Creek's winter hunting grounds. Together, the Indian and African factions became known as Seminoles, outlaws, and rebels. All right, it's a little bit of history about the South. Okay, now let's jump into the astronomy and cosmology. See, I've been reading a little bit from the book I wrote that's soon to be available to others. Not just this is the last copy I have, except for the ones online on my computer. Okay, so this book I wrote after traveling, after reading the book by Horace Butler, When Rocks Cry Out, which was one of the first works that really piqued my interest in this topic. And I actually got to meet him, which was one of the low points of my life. But I respect his work. And so I'm just going to read a little bit from the sections that I have where I talked about different places that he mentioned in the book, When Rocks Cry Out, and just notes that I have. And I plan to go back and visit these places. Okay, so here we have in Mexico, Taamachi in the Jezreel Valley, Megado. People of North America known as the Kali, or Black people, from the PBS special Histories of the American West. Calakmul, Campeche, Mexico, there's a pair of stelae. Says to look for anything by Sahagún the Castillo explorer, the letters of Cortez. The Valley of Mexico, invasion of Mexico by Aztec leader Montezuma. The streets and house roofs were black with natives from Veracruz. During the attack, Aztecs built Teotihuacan in 1325 AD. All right, so let's start with there. Teotihuacan has been known as the place of Jehuti because Teoti is Tehuti. So usually when the invading tribes, like the Aztecs, are not the indigenous people of Mexico. I'm not really sure where they came from, but the original people were the Olmec. Then we had the Maya, then the Aztec. But my research has shown that whenever an invader builds a temple on a site, they chose it because there was already a sacred site there. But it says here that Teotihuacan was built in 1325 AD. And these are notes from Horace Butler's book, When Rocks Cry Out. And then I wanted to point out again that the Aztecs are not the original people. The Olmecs are the original people of Mexico. Then we have the Mali king Abu Kari. The Mali ships were launched the same time as the Aztecs landed. Mali Sultan Musa Niani, 1311 was their second voyage. So their second voyage was 1311. It doesn't say when the first voyage was, but there's a current that will whisk you from Mali to the Yucatan. And this is the this guy Musa. He wanted to test it, I guess. So he sent his crew there, and nobody expected them to return. But when they got there, they just stayed. They didn't come back. And so then he sent another trip, another group of people there, and they came back and told him what had happened. So I thought it was interesting that these two voyages were around the same time. The first colony he sent, the Mali Make Mandingo, these are terms from Mali, Madinke, Masendinka, Mali Coma, Malinke is an Aztec woman named Dona Marina. These are just my notes from the book. I'm just reviewing. I haven't looked at this book in so long, and it's triggering things in me. So Mali is important. Why? Because they are the ones who maintain the Sirius culture, the Dogon Sirius culture. So remember, my objective is to piece together these remnants of this Sirius galactic pyramid culture and see how we can activate, like, for instance, the mountains of North America. That would help the people that are up north, because our sites were removed or destroyed. And we're just referred to as descendants of slaves and Indians. And there's lots of families that'll tell you their people didn't leave. Their people didn't go on the Trail of Tears. Their people weren't enslaved. So I'm going with those families, those stories. Let's see. Constance has, I feel like a Seminole. I know that it's a bloodline tribe now after the Trail of Tears. However, before I would have definitely joined, because living in Florida has been one long protest for our rights. Yes, Constance, especially when not a few years ago, I guess it's 20 years ago, 20 years? I'm trying to remember, when did my second album come out? Second album came out in 2000 and when did the second album? 2003 is when Black Turtle Island came out. And at that time, when I wrote the song World Peace, the Seminole Indians kicked out the Black Seminoles. And then the 5 civilized tribes, they kicked out the freedmen, which were Black natives. How can the Seminole Nation kick out all the Black members? And the Cherokee Nation kicked out all the Black members. The native woman that I was talking to, she's angry that we're reclaiming what was taken from us. And it's like, yeah, but where are we welcome? We're not welcome in the Cherokee Nation. We're not welcome in the Indigenous nations. We're not, we have to, we're not a part of it. We can be in it. We have to have our own thing. And so when we have our own thing, then we're criticized. And then over in Egypt and Kemet, whenever I would make comments about Kemet is Black, the Arabs would get angry saying, well, you're not Egyptian. I said, I never said I was Egyptian. I said, I'm Kemetic. And it doesn't have to mean that I'm born there. It means that the teachings resonate with me and it activates something in me. I was there in the past. In my past, I was there. It's my spiritual lineage. It's not, I don't want to be Egyptian. I don't want to be Arab. It's like, I don't want to be a part of a federally recognized, assimilized tribe where the people celebrate Christmas and get free turkeys from the commodities for Thanksgiving. And then when you go to the powwows, all their materials are made out of plastic beads and polyester feathers, painted colors that they got from China. And one tribe, I went to California Indian Days, one of the native group dancers, they call them natives. They have N8TIVE, native. The men had the kilts, right? And they had giant crosses over their private parts. So no, I don't want to be Native American. I don't want to be Indian. I don't want to be Egyptian. I'm just who I am. I know who I am. I know what resonates with me. I know where I've been. And I know that our people were here first. I know our people built those mountains. The Native Americans did not build those mountains. The Native Americans that are on the reservations right now, they didn't build those mountains. This is exactly why I'm not interested in building community with them. I've thought about it, but I know I'm not welcomed at all. Yeah, I lived on a reservation for 18 years in Round Valley Indian Reservation. No, thank you. I love living out in the country, though. I really miss that. Thank you for your support, Divine Masculine. Yeah, okay, here we go. I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm just reading from my own book, some of my notes, and then we'll move on to the cosmology. Mexico. Texcoco, the first Archbishop of Mexico, Don Juan de Zamaraga, gathered up all the artwork that showed the true nature of the Aztecs, i.e., melanin, and burned them. Anahuac Tlatelolco. Teocallis is the word for temples. Chapultepec is the last site of a bas relief of Montezuma and son, destroyed in the last century by the government. Yeah, there's a place in Veracruz. I can't remember the name of the city where the hero is as an Aboriginal, is a Black Mexican. I didn't even bring my notebook to take notes. Wait. I'll remember somehow. And they destroyed him. Destroyed by the government. The Black legend murdering Black people, pre-Hispanic Mexico, was Black. Historical Universal de Nueva España by Fray Bernardino de Sahagún. So that's the book you should look for. It's books by Sahagún. Okay, now Olmec Nahuatl peoples. The Panutlas or the Pantlas or the Penuco. That's why when I saw the sign Ijapantla, I was like, whoa, Ijapantla, I gotta go. Guatemalan in search of white smoking mountains along the shoreline. So these are all places that were highlighted, and when rocks cry out, if you ever had a chance to go, you should go, because there's our histories. They're always trying to be erased. TaMeriKan, we are looking for our home, stayed there for a while, then moved on. Some stayed behind. The Olmecas, Wixtotin, different Nahuatl peoples are called Chichimex because they returned, coming from the Chichimex land. It is said they returned from Chicomozoc. The people from the direction of the sun, the east, are not called Chichimex. They are called Olmecs, Wixtotins, or Nonoalcats. So if they're coming from the east, then that means they've been, maybe they migrated from Africa. The book and when the information in Rocks Cry Out says that people just went back and forth all the time. It wasn't a big deal. There was this current that would just whisk you from the Yucatan to the west coast. I think I read this part before. All Nahuatl people landed at Panutla. Like I said, I was at that Ijapantla, the gigantic waterfall, after arriving in ships that come from the direction of the rising sun. Then they headed south along coastline to Guatemalan. Ships returned to Mexico. Some remained there, the Olmecs. Others left and headed north to La Florida, which we were just talking about earlier. At that time, all southern states were called La Florida. When they returned to Mexico, they were called Chichimex, meaning returning. People arriving at the eastern shore of Mexico with books in red and black hieroglyphs. Nahuatl peoples also could be known as the Nile peoples. But we know now that Nile is an Arabic word, but it still could be related. Nawak, Mexitin Taharque. Leaders of ancient migration to the Americas, led by Nawak and Mexican. Ancient Egyptian pharaoh Taharque, similar to Nawake, also known as Tiarco, Itarchus, Tarachus, Tarkus, Teshenet, Kemet, Keep, Red Land, Ethiopia, etc. Did Egypt, or Kemet, back then I didn't even know about Kemet, I just knew it as Egypt. Did Egypt under Taharqa send ships sailing west towards the Americas? The Serapeum Stele records records an event at the end of his reign. Jerusalem and Thebes were both under attack during the time of Taharque and burial at Teotihuacan in the west. This is information from when rocks cry out about the culture, the civilization in Egypt is a memorial to what already existed here in TaMeriKan. Just a little bit more. This is exciting. So this is still Mexico. Bintresh Bekan. Bintresh is from Abu Simbel. Keita is also called Bekan Bekten. It takes 17 months to reach Bintresh from Egypt. Tajin, Balcourt, Bekan, Yucatan Peninsula. Bekan means winged building in Egypt. Mayans called buildings at Bekan because of their winged construction. Ramses at Bekan, door city of Tikal, Mirador, ruled by the greater city Tikal. Bintresh Stele, Taria Stele, depicts the west as way beyond the Nile. Tall stairway pyramids, only on Turtle Island. Yeah, they say the stair-step pyramids that Imhotep designed the first one, and then there's also those that say no, he just designed that one based on the ones that were over here in the TaMeriKan in the beautiful West. Antoine de Solis, History of the Conquest of Mexico. The Moorish buildings, the Black Aztecs, Montezuma was very dark, the Olmec. So there's just more proof of the Aboriginal peoples. Memphis, Heliopolis, Tenochtitlan, Teotihuacan, Memphis, Heliopolis. So they're saying that is the original Heliopolis. The labyrinth at Lake Moeris, She'ar, Great Lake Basin, Me'or, Great Lake, Tashi, Land of the Lake. The origin of Egypt was planted in the dirt of Heliopolis. 19 miles to the north of Memphis, City of the Sun, Teotihuacan, Pyramid of the Sun, Tehuti, Heliopolis, City of the Sun, Lake Texcoco, Texcoco, Tashi, Stairway Pyramid, not in Kemet. This place was called Mikoati, or Path of the Dead, a burial place for the kings. During the 5th century BC, it was called the City of the Crocodiles. Okay, so according to ancient records, Memphis should be found within 30 miles of Teotihuacan, Mennefer, the old capital of Egypt, a little above Cairo. But no trace of it is to be found. It is said that the remnants were transported to build a city of the caliphs. Horace Butler says that Memphis is where the Aztec capital had been. Menes, temple of Hephaestus, first human king of Egypt, separated Memphis from the Nile by a dam. The dam ran in a straight line from a place called Coyocan, south of Tenochtitlan, to the place now called Tepeyacac, north of Tenochtitlan. Herodotus wrote of this project. The Coyoca Dam was caused water to make the southern bend by the Aztec Lake Xochimilco, 13 miles from Tenochtitlan, 13 miles south of the bend. Tenochtitlan sits directly in front of the Mexican Coyocan Dam. Outside of Memphis, dug out a lake in the shape of a crocodile. West of Apis, founded by Menes, who was devoured by a crocodile. Tezcatlipoca, the Great Bear constellation, single footprint, Min or Menes. Memphis is Crocodilopolis, the Great Lake shaped in likeness of a woman carrying an island on her back. Tenochtitlan was called the Lake of the Moon. The Spanish demolished the island city of Tenochtitlan, Memphis, and drained the lake. So Butler's work shows that he has maps and everything that shows that the way they describe the landscape in Egypt and also what is called Israel and Jerusalem over in Africa, it doesn't line up with the distances. You know, when they say this temple is 13 miles north of here and it's 17 miles there and 100 miles here or 100 steps there, it doesn't line up. But when you go to these places mentioned in Mexico, where there's still like signs from what it was in the old days that it lines up. So he's saying that the Memphis, like people think Memphis, Tennessee is the original Memphis. He's saying that it was in Mexico. Not saying that this one up here wasn't also Memphis and Meri, but he's talking about the temples that line up. And, maybe they line up with the mounds. That's kind of work I want to get into, is lining up the rivers. They say the Mississippi River is the original Happy River. Happy is the original name for the Nile River. So that's just kind of what I'm interested in. I see there's a few more paragraphs and then we move to Brazil. But yeah, that's what I'm interested in. So, okay, now let's go to another book that I just found in my library last week. I didn't know I had this book, The Gospel of the Toltecs. Toltec is another Aboriginal civilization in Mexico, similar to the Olmecs. We have the Olmecs and the Toltecs. I first learned of the Toltecs from Don Miguel Ruiz, the author of the Four Agreements. The Four Agreements is ancient Toltec wisdom. His mother and grandmother are priestesses in the tradition, and he's the one that was given the authority or permission or recognition to share with the world. And my first trip to Mexico was with Don Miguel Ruiz. I went to Teotihuacan. I had an amazing experience. I've talked about them in previous videos. Oh, you have the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz? Okay, let me tell a funny story. It's not a funny story. Okay, about Don Miguel Ruiz. When I went to Mexico with Don Miguel Ruiz back in 2005, it was right when I was getting a divorce, or when my husband was divorcing me. I didn't want the divorce. And so I went on this trip, and for some reason, I wasn't drinking enough water. And I have this injury in my eye from my daughter kicked me when she was 2. If I don't drink enough water, the pain is just unbelievable. So my eye was sore for most of the trip. I was walking around like this. I was like in pain, just trying to drink a lot of water. And so it was the experience was winding down. We were like midway through the experience. It was winding down. And I was still like this most of the time. And so he called 2 of us to sit by him. During the week, he would give me this look like, don't you feel the love? Don't you feel the oneness? And, I was like preoccupied with the divorce and the assault, all the things. I was like in another space. I didn't know myself. I didn't know hardly anything of substance. And so he would just look at me like, just like that, and I thought he was just flirting. He was always surrounded by his beautiful groupies and everything. And I was just like, whatever, dude, and so he called me and this other woman to sit by him. Like he's sitting in a chair and we're sitting at his feet, literally. And he's giving a discourse, a lecture. And then he sings a song. He sings a song by the Beatles. I'm drawing a blank. Oh my gosh. I can hear it in my head, but I don't know. See, just give me a minute. It's the one about I remember you more than others, or all I'm hearing all these other loves. Oh, hold on, let's see. There are places we remember. That one. Da, 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 da. That one, okay? I'm going to have to make myself a note. I have a running note of all the things I said I'm going to look up after these sessions. I think it's on my other phone. Anyway, in my life, I loved you more. Remember that one? Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Will you show me them? There it is. TaMeriKan Tuesdays. Okay. In my life, I loved you more. Okay. Anyway, so he's singing this song, right? And he's looking at me with his eyes, and the other woman and everybody else in the audience is crying and laughing and they're smiling. We're like, what is going on? I don't know what's happening. And he looks at me, in my life, I loved you more. He's looking like right into my eyes. And he has his hand on my pineal gland, right? And then he puts it on my eye, and then the pain is gone. It's gone. It's just like, yeah, it was really incredible. I'll never forget it. And he asked me to write a song about the four agreements. Took me a long time. I did write a song about the four agreements. It's on my SoundCloud page. It's in Spanish. And then, like a few years after that, they were saying, "Oh, he's had a heart attack. He's gonna die. This is your last chance to see Don Miguel Ruiz. Your last chance to come to his lectures. Your last chance." And then I don't know what happened, but he must have healed himself because he's still out there. I don't know if I'll ever get to see him again or talk to him again, but I'm getting emotional right now. And so since then, like back then, it would happen a lot. The injury would flare up a lot. And since then, that was 2005, right? It only flares up if I don't drink any water at all. Let me drink some water. And I'm pretty good at maintaining it. But that's my Don Miguel Ruiz story. If you ever have a chance to read the book Four Agreements. Yes, in my life, I loved you more. Let's see. What is it called? By the Beatles. I think it's Places We Remember. Let's see. There are places we remember. Okay. Yeah, in my life. That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, in my life. It's going to play. There's an ad. Not the ad. Okay, here we go. This phone doesn't have very good audio. I don't know if you can hear it, but anyway, if you get a chance, check out this song by the Beatles, and know that Don Miguel Ruiz Meri serenaded me with that song. But he's right. After it only took me like 20 years, but now I know what this means. It means no matter what's going on, just feel the love, feel the beauty, feel the peace. It's there. It took me a long time, Don Miguel. Okay, it's already 9:00. I'm just going to read a little bit from this book and then transition over to the yoga class. YouTube, I do not know how I'm going to share the slideshow with you on this. I spent 2 hours this morning trying to figure it out, and I did not figure it out yet. But we're gonna try it anyway. I think if you just, I can share the screen, the slideshow, and you can hear my voice, but you won't be able to see the postures very well. So that's what we're gonna have to do for today. And once my website is back up, it'll be different. That sound soothe anyone, like changing the vibes. Oh, you heard it? Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful song, and Don Miguel Ruiz sang that song to me in 2003, 2005, 2003. Yeah, it was 2003. Don Miguel sang that song to me. Was it 2003? No. 2005. I don't remember. Anyway, okay. So last time we had a great time reading about the flood. No. Said it was going to, we read this one, the migrations. Wait. No, I said I was going to read this one next because I was talking about the migrations, and the spirits reminded me of something that I can't say. I don't know what I read last time. But these are, I guess these are their myths, their gospel. Of course, it was written down by an American, but that's what we got to go by. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it literally looks like something that I can't say what it looks like. But doesn't it remind you of something from 2020? In the midst of all these calamities, the voice of a venerated priest was heard throughout the kingdom as he walked throughout the land with his crosier, exhorting in this way, "Brothers, these are the God's signals that they are angry with us because we have not given them enough food. The kingdom is damned, corrupted is the earth. Where can we go on this terrible day?" With these words, he attracted. Oh, TikTok. Sorry, TikTok. Let me try it again. Oh my goodness. There we go. Yeah, so one of my opinions on our past is that I don't believe the Aboriginal people were into this blood sacrifice. I believe that came later. Yeah, I don't have that feeling about our ancestors. And that I believe that the Aboriginal people didn't have to rely on those type of things to connect with the divine. That as the wisdom teachings got diluted, more and more people began doing things that are not in alignment with Ma'at. It might still allow them to have a spiritual feeling or, their spiritual works work. I just don't believe that's the only way. Just like with diet, sure, you can live your life eating meat and shedding blood, but you don't have to. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to. Same with bloodletting and sacrifice, things like that. You don't have to. With these and so as far as like making offerings and things like that, I believe that we make offerings to our higher self, to ourself, and that empowers us and activates us so that we can manifest or be vessels of manifestations. There's a reciprocity there, but I don't believe that our ancestors, our celestial ancestors, would be ego, and if we didn't turn in a good crop, they would abandon you. I don't have that belief. When we do something grand, it is because of him. We must give him the glory. That's a beautiful sentiment. I'm sure we resonate in some ways. I'm just not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person. But yes, I agree. Give it to the Creator. Give the glory to the Creator. Everything that we manifest is being manifest through us by the Spirit. It's not us. That's a realization I came to last week. Is the reason why my manifestations weren't progressing the way that I felt they could or should or would, which is ego, is because I was trying to manifest them. And I'm just a vessel, and the universe is manifesting this experience through me. So I hope that's what you're talking about. Okay, good, right, good, great. Okay, so anyway, I'm still going to read this chapter on the migrations with these things that look like things that we can't see. The reason I'm doing this, in case you're new to this broadcast, is I believe, this is just my belief, this is what I do for fun, this is my opinion based on my research and my experience. I believe that this is Meri, the original Kemet. Maybe they were one at one time and they split up. Like I said, there was a war and some people said memorial there. But I believe that the Kemetic wisdom is embedded in these teachings from TaMeriKan, that the mounds were once mounds for great pyramids and sacred sites, just like we see in Kemet and Central and South America, and that we can activate them so that we can benefit from them. Maybe we built them. Maybe we were past lives were the ones that built them. I don't, I'm not saying, but I feel that the Kemetic wisdom that I learned from Dr. Mwada Ashby, which leads us to enlightenment, not just knowing your history and not just saying who's better, and not just to make offerings and to dress up and all that, but that the wisdom teachings activate the cosmic forces within us. The objective is that we become a cosmic force also, and that we can activate the energy by studying the wisdom teachings, making the offerings, doing the devotion, the meditation, the diet, and the ma'at actions. And so I believe that there's a correlation between the cosmic forces of TaMeriKan and the cosmic forces of Kemet. And so right now I'm just reading all these texts and pointing out the correspondences and rebuilding this culture. And I guess that's what makes my friends angry, is because I don't really know. Their culture came from somewhere. Their culture came from their ancestors sitting around the fire, having these conversations and these transcendental experiences, and then finding a way to share it with the youth, right? So that's all I'm doing. Some comments in this live were turned off to protect the community's experience. I don't know what I said. I don't know what was said. Here we go. With these words, he attracted the multitudes, and then he advised them, quote, "Let us abandon our crops, seal our houses, and save our lives. For if we remain tied to our city and our property, time will only bring wrongs, ruin, calamity upon us. It is not possible to escape from the wrath of time or to change the words of the prophecies." Isn't that kind of where we are right now? Abandon our crops, seal our houses, and save our lives. If we remain tied to our city and our property, time will only bring ruins, wrongs, and calamity upon us. That's actually what's going on for this chantress right now, as I am tied to my city, my property, my assets, my creations, like all the things I've done. I'm tied to my family. Every day I wonder, like, why am I still here? I'm here because I want to help my people. That's the only reason I'm still here. I want to feel close to my daughter. But after, does it still make sense? My ancestors say stay. So that's why I haven't left. But it's not making sense. Okay. The words of the prophecies. And so he went on, convincing the Toltecs to follow him, offering himself as a guide to take them to safety and lands of quiet and rest. Seeing the afflicted inhabitants all around them and how the catastrophes were increasing, many of them followed his advice and abandoned their homes and crops. Groups of Toltecs traveled from their lands, some to the north, others to the east. This venerated priest was none other than Tezcatlipoca, scheming to uproot Ke Aktal from his kingdom. Wow. So it sounds like he's putting together an army. Sources for this chapter: Historia General de las Cosas de la Nueva España. That was page 81 and 82 from the Gospel of the Toltecs. These are the myths of the Aboriginal, some of the Aboriginal Toltecs of Mexico. You are a creator, guide, healer. Dua. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Just don't know where I belong. Okay. Well, I'm going to have 5 more minutes because we didn't talk about cosmology at all today. The Maya cosmos, which is Olmec. I just opened it up. I forgot to save the page where it was tagged. There we go. Oh, I remember last time we read from the coffin. Okay. Okay, this is where we were. If I remember. And then we'll switch over to the yoga. Okay, so I just read. So I studied with this woman, Linda Sheely, when I was in grad school. The first time I was a galactic astronomer, the second time cultural astronomy. This is where I learned about the significance of the Milky Way as a clock. And I read Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx and learned of the connection between the Maya and Kemet. And then I read When Rocks Cry Out to learn of the presence here in TaMeriKan. So now I'm going to focus on the cosmology because that's what we have in common, that's what we share. And if we can find a way to come together, we can find a way to defeat Western imperialism. Because that's really what only thing I want to do. I'd like to live to see that, or some beginning stages of it. Okay, so I'm just going to randomly choose a page. Have I read this page before? Okay, this is from the chapter Waksatun. Here's the artwork. Oops. There we go. Let me take the background down. Okay. It reminds me of Bess. Okay, so the next chapter is Palenque, my favorite place. I don't know where to start here. Only got a few minutes. All right. Well, I opened it to that other page, but I guess we're going to start at the beginning of the chapter so we have some context. The Maya inheritors. The Maya inherited more from the Olmecs than the idea of the king as the world tree, which is the Milky Way, the tree of life. When they built their cities, they also replicated the sacred landscape of the creation. In the Maya story, the gods planted the 3 stones of the heavenly hearth and raised the sky. Those are the 3 stars in Orion's belt, by the way. They call that constellation a turtle. And raised the sky, and then formed the landscape of mountains, lakes, and forests that became the world in which their new creatures would live. Then they created the first humans. At the sacred mountain that was called Split Mountain in the Popol Vuh. That's the book I need to get. That my copy was stolen. Palenque's artist made an image of this mountain as a living being with its name glyphs sitting inside its eyes. It was the Yaks Hidehadwits, the first true mountain, figure 538 of this creation. First mountain. Oh, wait. There we go. This one. There we go. The tablet of the foliated cross. So I've been there actually in Palenque to the tablet of the foliated cross, and that is also represents where the Milky Way crosses the ecliptic at a certain time of year. At other times of year, it doesn't look like the cross, but it's the Great Cross. At Bonampak, it has a cleft opening on its summit from which Hun Nalye, the first father, emerges in rebirth. While at Palenque, the king, in the guise of the maize god, that's Asar, stands on it. Here was the place where first father and first mother fashioned the flesh of human beings from maize dough. The precious maize was located in a pool of still water at the heart of a cleft mountain. The representation of a sunken court as the surface of a pool of water and a portal to the other world, the netherworld, also has its analog in Mayan architectural symbolism. In classic Maya text, Nab was the word both for plaza and for large bodies of water, including lakes, rivers, and the ocean. The Mayan conception of a plaza as a watery place through which spiritual communion with the other world could occur was anchored in the precedent of the Olmec. Both saw plazas as a place where people could swim through the incense in the ecstasy of dance. The ball court was as a portal to the other world and as a piece of pre-creation space and time is also found at most Mayan sites. So that reminds me of the Kemetic temples that you go to. They have a plaza out front, and then they have a pool of water, or they have a pool for water where you're supposed to purify yourself before you go into the temple. That's what came to me while I was reading that, because they all have either a pool or like a cistern where the water comes out. They have a place where you go to purify yourself before you enter the temple. The ball court is the Gemini constellation. The lowland Maya began raising sacred mountain pyramids. Sacred mountain pyramids. Okay, what is that? 19. They have notes at the end of the chapter, I think. I don't know. Sacred mountain pyramids. Because they are building these mountain pyramids, right? What is that? Sacred mountain pyramids. Say 58? 58. Where do you find that? References. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Notes. Sacred mountain pyramids. Is this it? I don't know. Does that say 58 or 38? 38. Okay, sorry. I don't think so. 38. This will be the last reading, and then we'll move to yoga. 38. Nikolai Grube, in a letter sent to the authors in February 1990, demonstrated the phonetic reading of the verb as hub, which means, among other things, bajar, or to put something down. To conquer in the Mayan idiom was to put down the tokpakal of your enemy. The tokpakal, this has nothing to do with that, was a class of objects including the war serpent and the feather fringed standards, and perhaps the capacity to make war itself. Yeah, that must not be. Oh, I see. Pages. Sorry, that's not the right place. Sorry. That was not the right one. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's what I was supposed to read next. No time for that. Oh my goodness. Oh, here it is. Just same page. Okay. Okay, so page 138. 139. Okay, I see. They have the notes arranged this way. Sorry. Like I said, I haven't read this book ever. I just have it on my shelf. Okay, 38. Here we go. Many contemporary Maya people have supernaturals who have the word mountain or a reference to mountains in their names. Among the Maya of San Antonio in the Toledo districts of Belize, Eric Thompson reported that more than half a century ago, a belief in Urits talk gods of the mountains and the plains, and he reports the name Witz Alik from Oliver Lafarge's work among the Chuj, Again, mountain valley. This is clearly a related concept. Mountains and their human-made counterparts not only embody supernaturals, they also constitute the home of ancestral gods among many Maya of the highlands. We can document this belief in at least some classic Maya cases. The temple of the inscriptions at Tikal is glyphically termed a sleeping house. As we discussed in Chapter 4, this is still the term, the lineage shrine among the modern Quiche, and such places are certainly the abode of ancestral souls. So they're just saying they consider the mountains and the pyramids that the humans built as homes of sacred spirits. 148. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, sacred mountain pyramids of their own by at least 600 BC. They soon became masters at sculpting and plaster, the abundantly available architectural material of the region. By around 300 BC, Maya master builders were decorating their human-made mountains with extraordinary cosmic images. These artisans, like their Olmec counterparts, did not yet put lengthy text on their buildings. Nevertheless, we can identify the meaning of their designs because the classic period Maya who followed them retained strategic symbolism of the early Maya builders quite faithfully. And these later descendants put text on much of their art, ranging from single glyphs to entire histories. We can extrapolate the meaning of these symbols and images backward into the pre-classic Maya world with considerable confidence. Well, that reminds me of when the Greeks first started taking over Kemet. They were building some of the structures and trying to keep the culture alive, even though their government was trying to take it down, take it apart. Okay. So that's a little bit of reading for today. Let's see, I was supposed to read this page, but it's so long. Oh, I remember I was supposed to read this and give a summary. So let me put that in my notes. And then page 224. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if you remember me saying the reason I started doing this research again is because after when Linda died, her spirit actually came to me and propelled me to start doing this work. This was back in 1993. What is that? 30 years? And I just haven't been doing it. I didn't. But I'm ready now. I think I needed to, well, I know I needed to know more about Kemet so that I could understand this more, because this is Americans studying Aztec Mayans who got what they knew from the Olmec. So it's like going through three different translations, like us studying Kemet through Budge and the Greeks and the Arabs. I mean, we're doing our best. The truth is in there. We just have to know how to decipher it. All right, so that was today's presentation for TaMeriKan Tuesday. I hope you all benefited from my online research project. I am planning this tour. It's maybe not all together, all at once, but I'm planning to go visit the mounds. Before I go back to Mexico or go back to Kemet, I need to get a feel for what's up here. So, of course, the first one I'm going to do is the Cahokia Mounds, because that's close by. I'm going to be going to Indianapolis. I think there was someone on here from Indianapolis to go pick up my family records. They ended up with some people out there. I need to go get them. And then I'm going to go to Cahokia. And there's a guy in the Cahokia Mounds that has Egyptian artifacts. And I know someone in Tennessee that's on TikTok. I want to go visit her. And I know there's some mounds out there. I know there's mounds in Georgia, Atlanta, Alabama, like all those places. It's like I Mississippi. That's where my grandmother, the Blackfoot, is from. So yeah, I'm just gonna plan a trip like that. My great grandmother on my mother's side had a gig on a ferry boat on the Mississippi River, and I've always said I wanted to do that, recreate that. I don't know if anyone's gonna give me a gig, but I can just take my instruments and play music. I don't know. I really don't understand that part yet. But anyway, I'm going to move everything over, set up the slideshow, and we're going to have a yoga session if you want to stick around. I've said that I'll do this by donation. The last time I did stuff by donation, nobody made any donations, but I'm going to do it for now until I get it set up. If you are interested in making a donation to Cosmology Temple, I have Cash App and Venmo. I'm going to type it in here. I will not make the replays public. If you want to get the replay or watch the session, you will have to make a donation. I was excited about trying the subscriptions on TikTok. And then someone pointed out you only get half of what they donate. So if you're only charging 2,050 cents, you're getting $1. And they advised me to just use Cash App or something. So we're working on that. I think you heard me talk about how my website was hacked. And I have 4,000 backlinks to geography sites, 51,000 files. Half of them say silence is golden, and over 10,000 photographs backlinked to geography, which was really disturbing. So once it's up again, I will establish the subscriptions. Okay. So for those of you who want to stick around, get out your yoga mat for a TaMeriKan session of Aku Seneb. Aku Seneb translates to light being wellness. So just give me a minute here to set up the slideshow. Move the camera over. Now the thing I don't know about is how. Yeah, okay, so on YouTube, what I'm going to do is shut off this broadcast and start the other one with my other device because I need the computer for the slideshow. Okay, but TikTok, stick around, just going to move the camera over. Do a hatep. Okay, so just give me a minute.